All right. Let's get started. There'll be probably a few people jumping on. So I'm pretty excited about this. We're going to get into mindset. We know that mindset really is where it all starts. If anybody's been through BOLD or any trainings with KW, we know that that impacts us greatly. And we've got an awesome guest today. So Charlie is the team leader in OP. He's down in North Shore, Milwaukee, Lake Country area, and they have the premium of market centers down there. They've done a lot of stuff over the last few years. Charlie's been gracious to give us his time today and kind of pour into us. So Charlie, thanks for being here. Why don't you just start and tell us a little bit about yourself, maybe kind of how you got into the business?
Sure. Craig, thank you. And for the folks up in the Twin Cities, thank you for the opportunity to pour into your group. So yeah, Charlie Stalle. I've never sold a home in my life. I'm not even licensed. Let's see. I spent 8 years in strategy and consulting in the beer business. In 8 years, I lived in 6 different cities and spent 100 nights in a year, or spent 100 nights a year in a hotel, traveling all over the country. And I finally looked up one day and said, "Holy cow, what am I doing? What am I chasing? What am I after?" And so I was looking at an opportunity to move my family to California, and my parents came to me and they started this little thing at Keller called the KW franchise. And they were a year into it. And their initial vision was 30 people of their friends, and that's all they were going to do. And they didn't really want more than that. And a year into it, they were 150 people in 2 locations. And they said, "Whoa, we didn't start this business to really run a business." My parents had all done different things, and they said, "We're going to hire someone to come run this, and you either can come do this with us or we'll go hire someone to do it." So I said, "All right, I'll give you 2 years. This will either be the worst 2 years of my life or the best 2 years of my life, but I'll be young enough to be able to figure it out." And 5 years later, we're still going strong with 5 locations, roughly 700 associates that are part of our squad. And 3 kids under 5. I have a wife who does about 25 million a year in real estate. I have a mom who does over 100 million a year in real estate, and about 17 other family members that are in and around our businesses. So I have a lot of perspective on family businesses. Again, I've never sold a home before in my life, but I work with a lot of folks that do. And I always tell folks, my job isn't to tell you, if you have a contract question on how to get the next listing, like, I can help you a little bit, but if you need to get your head on straight or look at your business objectively in terms of the strategies you're implementing or you want to utilize, like, I'm your guy. And, it's no different than, the coaches who, this is an old reference, but like Mike Zimmer, when he coached the Vikings, never played in the NFL. He didn't need to be a part of the NFL to be a coach in the NFL. He had to study the strategies in order to implement, in order to make the Vikings successful, right, during his tenure. And so it's the same approach I take in this business. So I correlate a lot of our strategy, what I picked up in life through my strategy and consulting background, and just applied it to real estate. So that's kind of, there's the cliff notes as to who I am and what I'm about.
It's in your blood, that's for sure. So
yeah, totally. So Craig and Jake and the Butler group asked me to come on and talk about mindset a little bit in terms of what we're thinking and feeling. And here's what I would say. If you have something, say something, because this is far easier to do when there's two-way dialogue. Otherwise, I can talk about stuff that is totally irrelevant to you guys. And if that's, I live by a phrase that says, education without implementation is just entertainment, and you guys aren't here to be entertained. So if there are things that you want me to dive into or things that I can discuss on as it relates to what we're seeing or how we're doing it, I'm happy to. So jump in, throw it in the chat, whatever. But I'll kind of open it up with this. I'm a big believer in RAS. And does anybody know what RAS is? No? RAS is the system within your brain that processes information. Okay, so it's the thing between your 2 ears. And if you think about your RAS, what have you been hearing from an industry standpoint over the last 2-3 years? Like, what's in your RAS, or what are consumers telling you, or what's the media portraying? Don't all jump in at once.
That the sky is falling.
No. Go back. Go back like before the sky was falling. What was everybody saying?
The market is crazy.
Market's crazy. Okay. What else? Bueller. All right, I'll give you some answers. Everybody wanted to talk about, oh my gosh, how much is my home worth? What is it valued? There's no inventory. There's so many buyers. There's not enough sellers. Real estate agents are making more money than they've ever made in their entire life. Like that's all anybody ever wanted to talk about. Were you guys hearing the same thing in the Twin Cities? Okay, now I think it was Julie or Julia came on and said, what are you hearing now?
Yes, that the sky is falling.
Okay, thank Julie. I love you, sister. Thank you for participating. Okay, the sky's falling. What else are you hearing?
Rates are too high. I can't afford to buy a house anymore.
Yeah, perfect. What else are you hearing?
Need to wait.
Crash is coming.
Need to come. Yeah, need to wait. Crash is coming. This, that, and the, and it happens gradually, then it happens suddenly. Right? I mean, look how quickly that narrative changed, even since like February. Would you agree? Now, if that's only in our RAS moving forward in terms of what we're intaking in terms of information, how does that impact us?
We've become agreeable with the perceptions of our clients and prospective clients.
Love it. How do you say, if you don't mind me asking, how do you say your name?
Peji.
Peji, love it. Thanks for jumping in. So Peji, how does that impact your activities?
It reduces my energy to continue, and it prevents me mentally, physically to go out there and do what I need to do.
It's draining, right? If everything you're intaking in your RAS is telling you that your industry is in for a shift, your industry is falling, this, that, and the other, oh my gosh. And you wake up every single morning, you're like, holy shit, how am I going to make an income for my family? Or how am I going to provide for my family? Am I right, Peji?
Yes.
Beautiful. All right, so let me ask you a question, Peji, if you don't mind me. Am I saying that correctly?
Yeah.
All right, let's play along with me here.
Okay.
How many listings came live last year in the metro or in the MLS up there in the Minneapolis Twin Cities metro area? Any idea?
I don't have the numbers memorized.
No problem. Let me ask you a question. How many listings did you take last year?
Last year I took 11 listings.
Perfect. Okay, 11 listings. And would you say in general, between your RAS last year and 2021, were they saying new listings were up or down?
New listings were up.
They were up. Okay, and what are you feeling so far in 2022?
They're continuing to go up.
They're going up. Okay, let me give you a little perspective. I jumped into your MLS stats this morning as I was prepping for this. There were 58,000 listings that went live last year in 2021 in the Minneapolis metro Twin Cities area. Okay, there's 58,000. Okay, so far in 2022, from January till today, anybody have any idea of how many listings came live so far this year in your guys' area? Throw a guess. You don't have to be right or wrong. You're probably going to be wrong. It's okay. What, Jeff Engel, how many do you think there are?
24.
Boom, the guy's paying attention. 26,000 listings that came live on the Twin Cities metro area. Okay, Peji, let me ask you a question. Did you make the income you wanted to make last year or that you desired to make? Did you hit,
No.
did you have no?
No.
Or let me ask this, from the group on the call, how many people had a really, really good year in 2022?
Well, I had a good year.
Yeah,
I just had a higher goal than I wanted to, and I didn't I didn't hit my goal.
All good. Here's my point. Almost everybody on this call had one of their best income years ever, for the most part. That's a general rationalization. Okay. They're also starting to feel a little bit in terms of what's going through their RAS systems, is what the market, the media, their consumers are telling everybody. The housing market's in trouble. Starting to see a slowdown. Prices are going down, this, that, and the other. Okay. I also know this, there were 58,000 listings that came live last year. All you have to do is focus on one of them. And then once you get your one, then you get your second. And then once you get your second, you go into your third. And then once you get your 11th, you go into your 22nd, right?
Mm-hmm.
The challenge that we face is everything that gets put into our RAS system is what we ultimately believe. And Paige, what you talked about earlier, where your energy is drained and your battery is low and this, that, and the other. If you think about it and flip the script to say, you know what, I should have the opportunity to get what I desire from, if there were 58,000 listings that hit the market last year, I should get more than my fair share of what that looks like. What is it that I need to do to go get the next one? Right?
Correct.
And that mindset from an abundance standpoint to realize, holy shit, the market's much bigger than I ever really realized or anticipated, allows you to get up the next day to put your, put your pants on one leg at a time and take one step forward every single day. There isn't magic in this business. Let me ask you another guy's question. Anybody ever read Simon Sinek's Infinite Game book? Okay. Kimbra, did I say that right? All right, Kimbra, I'm going to call you out.
Yeah.
What was the premise of the book?
I read it a while ago. Good heavens. Ask me about it.
It's all good. I'll give you the cheat sheet.
You can see that I read a lot.
I know, I love it. Here's where I'm going at. Okay. You have to accept this fact. There aren't winners in business and there aren't losers in business. Okay. And Simon Sinek talks about this in the book, The Infinite Game. There aren't winners in this business. There aren't losers in this business. Those that exit the game run out of two things: willpower and resources. Right? And so as we head into the next evolution of what the market becomes is, can you take a hard look at what your willpower looks like in terms of what's going on between your RAS system, right? And take a look at, do you have the resources that you need to effectively be successful in order to continue to play the game? Because here's the key. You're not in it for a great year. You're in it for a great career.
I just heard a quote that said, you are never given a mission without the means to succeed.
Totally. And what's your mission, Kimbra?
Well, my mission is my big why.
And what's your big why?
My big why is my family.
And why? What do you want to provide for your family?
Well, it's more or less for my grandchildren. Actually, I want to provide them a legacy of, seeing that their grandmother was an intelligent striver and never gave up. Right.
And that example that you give your grandchildren, right? That motivates you to get up every single morning to focus on the 58,000 listings that are coming to the market, right? And to say, I only need to get one of them today. Mm-hmm. I don't need to get 58,000 of them. I just need to get one of them. I did this exercise with our group last month and we had pretty similar numbers. We're down in the metro Milwaukee area. We had 51, we're a little smaller. We had 51,000 new listings that came to the market last year. Okay. Everyone wants to talk about the top teams. We're fortunate to have 6 of the top 10 teams in the metro area part of KW. Okay. And everyone always thinks, oh my gosh, all we do is cater to the big top teams, there's no market share for the rest of us. The sky is falling. What's going to happen when the market shifts? The top teams are going to thrive. Well, I did the math. The top 10 teams in the metro Milwaukee area last year did less than 0.6% of the total listings. 0.6%. So to Kimbra's point, the reason why I'm circling back to Kimbra's point is to say, listen, all I have to know is get up every single day to get that one extra listing, and because my big why is big enough to get me to show up, so that when Paigey hears, oh my gosh, the media is telling me the sky's falling or the housing bubble is going on, like, All I got to do is show up to get that one next listing, because there was 58,000 in the Twin Cities metro area. And that my big why, my willpower is stronger, and I have the resources to succeed more so than the person to the next of me, who we know is going to have attrition within this business. Here's the other thing I'd tell you. If you haven't read Shift, it's a great book, simply from a mindset standpoint. Okay. Here's what we also know about the current environment in the industry. See, Kimbra's a reader. It's right on her desk. Okay. Here's what we know. Last year in 2022, and these are straight facts. Last year in 2022, income per agent was at all-time lowest. Income per agent. Now, tell me, why would that be?
So many new agents that got into the business.
Yeah, there's more people there's more people associated to the National Association of Realtors than ever before in its history, despite the fact that we had one of the all-time top residential real estate markets in history. Okay. What's going to happen, do you think, in the next 2 years if we really feel the impact of the shift that everybody wants to keep talking about?
A lot of agents are going to leave the business.
And that's healthy. I'm just telling you, it's funny. Everybody probably thinks I'm crazy. I actually think attrition is really healthy. You know why? It's like, it's the theory of natural selection. The strong will survive. Those that have the strongest willpower and have the resources to succeed in order to go capture the 58,000 listings that go on in the Twin Cities metro area will be the ones that when the market dips and income per agent is at the highest, is when ultimately you take your market share and you accelerate from there. Right? Because here's the other thing that we know over the course of time. Everybody assumes the market just goes like this. It just goes up and down and up and down. In reality, the market always goes up and like this. It goes up and down, but over a 5, 10, 15, 20-year period, it's done nothing but appreciate over time. And how we navigate those moments as it goes like this over time is what will allow us to take advantage of the market shift when income per agent is at the absolute highest, because attrition is healthy in this business, and that we were able to survive that gap period between where we are today and where the market's going in order to get to where we want to go long term. Again, I go back to Kimbra's not in it to have a great year. She's in it to have a great career, because her why is strong, because she wants to provide the resources and the accessibility to what it is that her grandkids want to do and provide a good example for her and her family. That makes sense? This isn't rocket science. We aren't curing cancer. We aren't putting people on the moon. We aren't doing brain surgery. We're helping people find from where they are now to where they want to go. And our jobs are to help them fill the gap. Right? So let's not get lost in the fact that, like, the stressors of everything else that goes on within our life. We're there just to be problem solvers and relationship builders. And if we do that at the highest level, we'll succeed. What else? How else can I pour into this group? Or what are thoughts on your minds or things that you guys have? I started with just more so the theme of abundance and more so of like what's within your RAS systems. But what's on your guys' mind that we can beat out of you in a literal sense of, this is what's going on within my mindset, or this is what's holding me back from getting to where I want to go.
What do you do every day to get your mindset right?
So I'll give you the reason why I told you my story up front is to help you understand why it is that I do what I do, right? I spent 6 years, 100 nights a year in a hotel. I lived in 6 different cities across the US in 8 years. In the same token, like for me, I coached 7 years of high school varsity football. I coached the last 2 years because of a situation. I coached the high school varsity tennis team in our local community. I wake up every single day since I've moved into this industry, focusing on, to Kimbra's point, why it is that I do what I do, right? And I'm a person, like, it sounds crazy, I don't drink coffee. I get up every single morning at 4:30 a.m. I'm moving to get going because time is the most precious element within my life. And I only, listen, Jeff Engel, he only has 24 hours in a day. Kimbra only has 24 hours in a day. Jane only has 24 hours in a day. I have to maximize the efficiency of those 24 hours. Because the other thing about me is, I'm very connected to my big why and what I do. I'm very much understand that time is the most precious thing I have, which is why I made the career switch I did. And I get up every single day at between 4:30 and 5 every single day because I can't waste an hour of daylight. And so I get up, drink coffee, and I just freaking go. Because I know, for me with 3 young kids under 5, like I want to provide them a childhood that I could have never imagined or dreamed of when I was a kid, right? I spend a lot of money on experiences. I think experiential is the absolute best way for my kids to learn. It's the best way for us to spend time together. Like, that's why I get up. And then, as a team leader, when I have to make 20 calls or I got to deal with an agent who has a really bad attitude and, we got to deal with some HR stuff or this, that, and the other, it's, to me, I focus on where it is that I'm trying to get to and go to, and that I don't waste a lot of time because efficiency of time is what I value most. I don't know, Julie, that was the most rambling answer of all time. But what I'm trying to tell you is I'm very connected to my big why, and I very much value time because I see people who waste a lot of time, or I hear agents who are like, I have an agent who came and wanted to meet with me this morning. Oh, I'm just not having the success I wanted to have. Great. Bring your calendar for the last 90 days. They bring it, they set it in front of me. I'll tell you why you haven't had the success you haven't had. You're not doing jack shit, like just get up and do the activities and the results will show up. I don't know. That's just, Julie, I don't know if that helps you or hurts you, or that you may say I'm totally full of crap, but I'm a very passionate individual as it relates to how I spend my time and then what I do with my time in order to give back to those that I love.
Hey, Charlie, this is Craig. What do you listen to? What do you feed? So if you want to affect your RAS, right? Or what are you taking in? Who are you around? What are you listening to?
Yeah. Sorry, I was just replying to Paige's chat section. I'll tell you a little backstory. So, I've told this many times, you guys have talked about it. I lived all over the country, met a lot of really cool, amazing people. I moved back to my hometown. A little backstory. I've known my wife since 3rd grade. We've been dating since high school. It was very easy for me to get back into Milwaukee and fall into the trap of like, oh, all my buddies, like this is what they're doing. They're hanging out on Brady Street on a Friday, Saturday nights, or like this, that, and the other, right? For you guys, it's like the uptown area in Minneapolis. I lived in Minneapolis for 2 years. And I looked around one day and I was like, damn, the guys I'm hanging out with aren't moving anywhere fast. And like, I have really big goals that I want to achieve. And like, I love those guys. They're still my boys and I hang out with them. But like, I really need to find myself a new group of friends. And all of a sudden I started hanging out with guys in their 40s and 50s because I wanted to get to where they were. And I focused on guys who had great relationships with their families. And I focused on people who had great relationships with their kids and their spouses, and that were making the income that I desired and were running businesses that I desired. And I started hanging out with them, and I started going on ski trips, and I started doing all these different things with people that were where I wanted my life to be. And I would say that was my biggest evolution as an individual, as I totally changed. And I'm a firm believer of like, your network is your net worth. Like I have big net worth goals, and I wanted to hang out with the network that had the net worth that I desired. And so I started hanging out with those folks. I think that was the biggest change I made 5 years ago. Craig, as it relates to your question as to, what do I listen to every single day when I wake up, or what does it get me going? it's kind of all the same stuff that everybody talks about. Like, yeah, do I read books? Yeah, I read books. Do I listen to podcasts? Yeah, I listen to podcasts. I'm a firm believer of like what you put into your RAS system is how you'll show up. Because I believe too that like what I put into my RAS system and how I show up for our group for KW here in Milwaukee is the same way I want to show up for my kids, is the same way I want to show up for my wife. And if I don't look at the holistic person, I can't show up for my clients that I serve or this, that, and the other in the most, balanced or holistic approach.
For
I don't know. What else? I'm just a guy who helps people. And I'm just trying to tell you what it is that I do every single day.
So when you're dealing with your team and different personalities, different perspectives and lives, different wherever they are in their life, how do you get those agents to raise their own mindset and take control of their own mindset instead of allowing other things to feed into them?
Yeah. Here's what I would say, Paige, you have 2 ears and 1 mouth. Use it proportionately. What I mean by that is what we intake, and you talked about team members and this, that, and the other, right? Like, let's say you and I are business partners, right? You're having a tough day. And I got to get Paige out of where he is in order to effectively get him moving forward. I'm going to sit down and say, you know what? Someone who's going through a tough time like that, I'm just going to allow them to unleash, unload, download everything they have. Just get it off your chest. And I'll sit there and listen for 30 minutes before I say a word. Because I know that built up anxiety or whatever's going on within their life has to get out. And so all I'm going to do is I'm going to take the needle and I'm going to pop the balloon and I'm just going to let the air out. And then from there, it allows me to download as to what is it that's going on in Paige's life that I need to help him with or help him work through, and know that I have to be disconnected from whatever it is that he's going through from a standpoint of this. Like, yes, there's a lot of negativity in the world. There's a lot of negativity in the media, negativity and all that kind of stuff sells. I get it. And yet I have to disconnect that perception from my reality so that when Paige's going through something like that I can allow him to unleash and download, and then I can then intake the information and organize the information before I provide my opinion to help him get him to where he wants to go. Does that make sense?
Yes.
Too often and not, I mean, I see this with leaders within our organization. Paige says, hey, I need some help. What happens? Paige comes into the room, the leader comes into the room, and the leader tells Paige everything that's wrong with going on in his life and what he's doing wrong and this, that, and the other. And Paige's like, wow, this isn't what I came in here for. Most people are seeking the help and they want to download first. And then as the leader, you have to look at it and say, okay, how am I going to organize my thoughts now that I know where they are to get them to where they want to go? Be the last one to speak. It's a very powerful activity. Yeah, Kevin Swan, what do you got?
Hey, Charlie. First of all, thanks for sharing your gifts. This is awesome. I'm going to take a big chance and expose something perhaps embarrassing. So KW is all about abundance thinking, right? And you mentioned it a few minutes ago. And I'm just going to share with you, I confess, I have a hard time with that. And, we could tell my life story, but I'll just say I'm the son of 2 farmer parents, right? Mother nature, hard work, nothing comes easy. And so my question would be, what tips could you give me and perhaps maybe 1 or 2 other people on the call who struggle with? I just have a hard time grasping this abundance thing. It's like, if it's going to happen, I got to go make it happen. And it's right.
Yeah. Here's what I would say about abundance, Kevin. Abundance is the outcome. And the outcome meaning is like, there's more than enough for everybody to go around. And yet, I mean, just me personally, I'm a highly freaking competitive person. And I'm not going to wait for Kami to go after it and get it. I'm going to go after it and say, I'm going to take control of my outcome. And I think the biggest difference between those that understand the abundance mindset and those that don't is, like, Kevin, I totally hear you, because I get it every day with our associates. They're like, yeah, I'll just call it a spade a spade. Abundance is bullshit. Well, sorry, I don't mean to apologize. I'm just being very frank and direct. I don't understand the outcomes to it. Yeah, I can't, it doesn't come to me. And I just tell people all the time, I'm not going to allow Kami to control my outcome. I'm going to take control of it. And I'm such a competitive person. Like, if you look at your top 1% within your MLS, what would you say the common trait is amongst those individuals?
Well, again, and I'm suffering from, we see life the way we see it. So the first thing we say is just hard work, just hard friggin' work, just doing it day after day and year after year.
And for the most part, they're incredibly competitive people. I mean, to a fault, they probably get labeled as being a shark, or they get labeled as being cutthroat, or they get labeled as being hard negotiators. The difference is they're no different between you and I. Like, the contracts are all the same. The way they negotiate is effectively all the same. The inventory, for the most part, is all the same. Like, there isn't anything that separates Kevin Swan from Jared Finch. The only difference is does Kevin Swan wake up every single day with a fire in his belly to say, you know what, I'm going to be able to control my outcome, and I'm not going to let Jared Finch beat me to the next listing, or I'm not going to be Jared Finch be able to convert the next buyer. And for some people in this industry, it's okay to say, you know what, I don't have the desire to be, I don't know, in the top 1%, or I don't have the desire. It's whatever you desire to be. But the abundance thing comes after being self-accountable, highly actionable, what it is that you desire to do. And then abundance flows from that, because you realize, you know what, even though Jared and I compete with each other, there's still a lot of it to go around, but I can get up every single day and I can sleep easy at night knowing I did everything I needed to do in order to be successful, because I was consistent with it over time. Does that make sense?
Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. What else? Kevin, and I appreciate the honesty and the exposure to your question, for sure, because I think a lot of people think the theory of abundance, they trust, they're like, oh, abundance. You're like, no. Abundance is a byproduct of the self-starter, the person who's highly accountable, the person who's highly competitive. And abundance comes because they show up every single day and they're consistently boring at what they do. And I think we have a big problem in our industry of being consistently boring. I need to go find the next shiny object. I need to find the next lead generation system. I need to find this, that, and the other. Well, shit, what made you successful for the last 20 years? Like, it's funny. I've noticed this. I had a conversation yesterday with someone who does 56 million a year. I said, what are you doing right now in order to prepare your business? They said, we're sending out more letters to homes than we've ever sent to. Our entire team door knocks. Everybody on our team is hosting 2 open houses. Like, if you listen to that, they're not telling anything. There's no new secrets. There's no new technology. They're just getting back to the fundamental basics, right? And they're doing them consistently well over time. And from that, abundance flows, because they know if they do those activities that made them successful, they'll see the results they desire.
I have an additional comment I could make, but I don't want to monopolize the conversation. So I'll pause, but if no one else jumps in, then I'll make another abundance related comment question for you.
I feel like you go for it, Kevin.
Kev, shoot from the hip, brother. Let's rock and roll.
Right. So again, like all of us, we take in, different meetings, podcasts, whatever. So I was at this business networking meeting, reached out to the coach who gave the talk, and she's really big on abundance. And she's like, I'm on the treadmill every day going, money flows easily to me. Money flows easily to me. And part of my brain's like, okay, I want to be like that. And then the other part of me, and again, I grew up in Madison. Both my parents are from Wisconsin.
Yeah, go Badgers.
Yeah, you bet. I sold hot dogs in Camp Randall, by the way, one of the funnest things ever. Anyway, so part of me is like, okay, I'm going to believe that. And then the farmer part of me is like, that is just such a bunch of BS, right? Well, I have lost a few listings that I should have won over the past few months. And I'm like, okay, is this the abundance gods getting back at me for, hey, come on, we're going to penalize you for not. So again, I get the abundance as the outcome, but it's still not helping me make that leap to go. It's almost like, give me some reason or way to believe and get to be like this person who's like, money just comes to me easily. And that's like,
Yeah, you know what the problem, Kev, let me, I think the biggest problem, real estate agents that go through careers like this, right? They make a lot of money, then they're broke. They make a lot of money, then they're broke. They make a lot of money, then they're broke, right? They ride the roller coaster, right? That's a lot of our industry. Very few have really steady incomes, right? And you talk about losing a few listings and something. I think one of the biggest challenges a lot of people have is the imposter syndrome. They don't believe that they're worthy enough to earn the business, or they don't believe this person is this, that, and the other. Like they earned it for this reason. Part of it is the mental confidence and fortitude. Like that person you're talking about who wakes up and says, money just flows to me on the treadmill. I don't even know who that person is, but I'm going to ultimately, I believe they're incredibly confident in who they are. They're incredibly confident in what they do. And I'll use just another example of like your parents who are farmers. They farmed, right? And they woke up every single day, probably earlier than what I do now. And they got after it because they know they needed to provide for their family, right? And they said, you know what, I'm a damn good farmer. And this is the life I chose. And I'm very accepting of the life I chose. And you know what, I'm going to be the best farmer I can to the fields I have, or the cows that I have, or this, that, and the other. And they go to work. And from that, consistency over time allows you to build confidence, and it allows you to shake that imposter syndrome off, or squish is this the abundance gods getting after me? Because those that have that confidence don't think about like, I'm not much of a believer of like, luck doesn't really just happen to people, or, people, there's a succession of things that happen, dominoes that fall because good things happen to people because of the way they set their life up. You know what I mean?
mm-hmm.
And that takes time. It's like, when I go to the gym, I don't go to the bench press and bench press 300 pounds right away. Right? I go and I bench press 30 pounds, and I work my way up to 50 pounds, and I work my way up to 100 pounds. And that, like, remember, your mental mindset is just as much of a muscle that you have to flex and work through and think through. And I think if anything, the pandemic has really helped us with is forcing people to think about their mental mindset or their mental aptitude or their mental health and addressing it, because your brain is just as much of a muscle as anything that you would work out in a gym. And the exercises that we do, the thoughts that we have, and working those things through allow you to build those confidences.
And again, I'll only say this is not you one-on-one. So hopefully your answers are being just as applicable for everybody else. In my case, I'm almost suffering right now, the past few months, from the opposite. I'm overconfident. Like, again, you and I share something. I'm late to this business. I turned 60 on July 4th. I worked in corporate America for the first 15 years. I'm deeply logical, analytical, whatever. And my wife was a stockbroker for 30 years. And, she still has to remind me, Kevin, this is not a B2B business. This is a B2C business. People choose realtors because they like the way you talk or the way, you dressed. And so what's been really frustrating for me is these listings I've lost on paper. I'm pretty confident all of us would go, they should have chosen you, given everything you do and all the money you spend on your marketing. And these people chose agents for just insane reasons. And that's one thing that just drives me crazy about this business. So if anything, what I'm trying to learn is like, I got to listen more, to your point, right? I got to go in and just go, what's really important to you? And if the answer is crazy reason X, then I have to address that, as opposed to going, here are all the great reasons you should choose me because here's all the great stuff I do for you. Does that
Yeah,
make sense?
sometimes though, you can't rationalize strategy to win business, right? There's an emotional quotient EQ aspect of this business that is just as important as systems, models, processes, this, that, and the other. And I say this all the time. This is a belly to belly business, right? People are trusting you with their largest financial asset on their balance sheet. 99% of America, a home is their largest financial asset on their balance sheet. Okay. It's also the emotional component of where they raise their family or where their kids are moving into or where they got married or this, that, and the other. There's an emotional component to it. So you may have the best systems in the world. You may have the best strategy in the world. Heck, you may even be the best pricer in the market. But if you don't have the emotional quotient aspect of this business for someone to trust you with their largest financial asset, you will never be able to win more. You know, that's a piece of the business that we all have to work on. For sure.
Yeah,
It's
thank you.
easy to rationalize strategy. 2 ears, one mouth. If you use them proportionately, you will be more successful than you will ever realize.
Thank you.
Yeah. Kev, I appreciate you jumping in. Makes my life easier. Otherwise, you just hear a guy from Milwaukee rambling.
It's a
What
little
else?
more than, it's a little more than that, but yeah, we know what you mean.
Anything else I can help this group with?
You know, Charlie, we talk about our RAS. Now we're meeting face to face with clients that are hearing a lot of stuff that's coming in their RAS. So how do we effectively communicate with them to change that for them, or at least lead that? I know you've given some data, but what are the resources that would be helpful in doing that?
Yeah, you have to be the economist of choice for your clients. Here's the truth. They're either getting their information from you or they're getting their information from another source. And when you utilize data, data removes subjectivity, right? So if you aren't utilizing data within your pitch or presentation and that they believe their home is worth 800,000 and you're like, gosh, I don't see comps more than 600,000, right? How are you going to utilize data and to be the economist of choice in order to cut through the airwaves of whatever they hear from their media or whatever they heard from their friends who sold their house a year ago or this, that, and the other? Data removes subjectivity and it allows you to cut through the clutter of the emotions. And so when you become the economist of choice and they view you as their resource, their go-to resource for the information of their largest financial asset, you will win the business. You know, there are a lot of agents too who have the opposite problem of Kevin. Oh man, I was their best friend. I was in their, I mean, heck, I had it happen to me. I was the best man in my buddy's wedding and he called me and he said, hey, nothing personal, but I didn't use Megan to sell my house. I said, that's absolutely personal to me, right? We helped you secure the house. So you've already trusted us with the asset once, but you didn't trust us to sell the house. Yeah, you know, it's nothing personal. No, it's absolutely personal. But what it also told me was, even though I was the best man in his wedding and we have a great relationship with him and his wife and this, that, and the other, it also told me that somebody else had a better strategy that got through to him and utilized data or this, that, and the other for him to want to sell the house with that agent. So yes, it goes both ways. You can have the best strategy and lose because you had, no emotional connection with the individual, and you could have the best emotional connection with the individual and have the worst strategy. The balance in this business and those that do it really, really well can do both.
I'm going to
Kev's
jump in
back.
again if nobody else does.
Kev's back.
So again, on this whole pricing thing, I think this is one of the reasons I lost. So my strategy is I'm trying to advise my clients. The list price is irrelevant. It's the sale price that counts, right? So I'm trying to advise to go in lower and create lots of activity and interest and yada, yada, yada. So what would your advice be? Like, I'm seriously debating, do I need to forsake what I believe is the best strategy in the interest of my clients and become like other agents I'm losing to, where again, the one I have, the listing I'm talking about that should have been mine. I'm up at my cabin. I do a lot of lakeshore stuff up north of the cities. He started at 5.25 million 5 years ago. He's down to 3.5. And I was trying to tell him, look, we should go on at 2, and it's probably going to go to 2.5. And other agents are going, oh no, it's worth 3. We should list it at 3, and it'll probably sit there for another year. I'm like, so yeah, maybe a year from now I get it, but I guess
I don't think there's a,
you're pretty wise. Do I forsake what I think is in the best interest of my clients in order to get the listing? What helped me with this dilemma?
I think that it's a case by case basis, and how you go into helping understand what your clients, I mean, because at the end of the day, when someone sells their house, you got to solve for a couple things. How quickly do they want to sell it, and for how much money? I mean, that's really it. And if they can be as patient as your friend is, then I'd go out with the price they want to price it at, if knowing that he's going to be patient. And I would also go in to say, listen, we're going to implement this strategy of price drops over time if we have no activity or movement. And or if the client's motivation is, I got to get this thing sold fast, great, let's implement this pricing strategy in order for this thing to move. So it's a time and money question and equation, knowing that, like, again, I'd rather win the business than lose the business to somebody else, because I'm not saying their strategy is right or my strategy is wrong. I'm just saying I'm going to do what it takes based on what the client tells me their motivations are in order to secure the business. And then I will work with them to implement a strategy based on what I feel is right to get the house moved. Again, I'm in the business of winning deals, not losing deals. So yes, I will compromise strategies for what the client wants, and then we'll implement my strategy over time with an agreeable, because once you control the inventory, you control the strategy. But if you don't control the inventory like you don't now, you don't control the strategy. So win the deal and then control the strategy.
Thank you.
Yeah. Cool.
We have 35 people on here. Come on, everybody, ask a question, for God's sake.
Yeah. What
So you must have down days. What do you do?
Yeah. It's a great question. It's funny. So I'm very fortunate that I get to work with my mom, right? And my mom and I are pretty similar, and we're very fortunate that, like, when she's down and I'm up, I pick her up. And she recognizes that when I'm down and she's up, she picks me up. It's knowing who you trust with your emotions aspect of when you're down, who you can be vulnerable with, knowing that, like, listen, I'm whether you see someone professionally or you see a buddy or you go, like for me, I'll go text a buddy and meet him for a beer or whatever it may be. It's knowing those people in your life that will fill you up to say, you know what, I'm in a tough spot right now and I just really need some help. And knowing who those relationships are and who those relationships aren't. And my number one go-to for me is my mom, and I trust her inherently. And that I'm very fortunate that when I'm down, she's up, and when I'm up, she's down, and we can pull each other through what we got to get through. And for others that I work with, great, go see someone professionally for 30 minutes a week or 60 minutes a week, or, go on a date night with your spouse or whatever that may be. I'm also, and this is, I've really honed in on this the last couple of years. But I think physical health is such an important aspect to it. Like, if you're not in, this is pre-pandemic, but if you weren't healthy going into COVID and you got COVID, man, the odds were stacked way more against you than, like, if you, were healthy. And so I've been on this big kick of, like, eating right, physically being right, and it has helped me so much more up here than I ever imagined. Because before I'd be like, oh, let's have a frozen pizza and, a couple beers and, we'll be good. But I'm a big believer in, like, eating right, physically being right. And it's helped me a lot of getting through, even when tough times are tough, like, it's all right.
Are you big on time blocking and following your calendar and having everything in there?
No, I'm just being honest with you. I suck at time blocking. I'm a huge proponent of the calendar. Like if it's not in my calendar, it doesn't exist. You know, in my world, having 3 kids with all these different activities and running 5 different market centers, and you know, we have other businesses that we're involved in. You know, like if it's not on my calendar, I just can't effectively remember a thing. But I've had a real trouble of being like, this is my time to lead generate, and this is my time for appointments, and this is my time for myself. The only thing I will say, and this is the reason why I wake up early, the time period, the reason why I wake up so early is I wake up to work out every single day. You know, I work out from 5:30 to 6:30. So I spend 4:30 to 5:30 on my phone or my computer, just like, what do I need to get done for the day? 5:30 to 6:30, I'm working out. 6:30, I come home and I'm getting the kids ready. And then my day is like the Kentucky Derby. It's a mad sprint until about 6 o'clock. And then 7:30, the kids go to bed. But everything else in between, like really when I show up at the office at 8 and 6 o'clock, like it's a mad dash. I commend those that can do time blocking. I just have a hard time, because for me, I always prioritize my time based on the priorities I have within my business schedule or my busy. Okay, this is more of a priority right now than this is. That's going to come to the top and it's going to make it on my calendar. So
Great, thank
How do you
you.
handle interruptions with that? Then? It doesn't matter if you're time blocking or prioritizing, but we have plenty of interruptions.
yeah, I think for me, again, I look at everything as to like, you know, is it immediate and urgent? Is it immediate, not urgent? Is it urgent, but, or, you know, you get the point of this, right? Like, and I go through and I just, you know, the other thing is I've gotten really good at, which I had a hard time doing when I first got into this business, is like, I'll just look at my phone real quick. I have 600 missed texts and I have 117 unread emails. And the reason I share that isn't because people can't get a hold of me or this, that, and the other. It's just I've gotten really good between recognizing what's a 411 and what's a 911. And if it's a 411, guess what? They're going to reach out to me again. They're going to hit me with another email. They're going to call me again. But if it's a 911, I'm going to be immediate, you know, to my response, my communication. I'll rearrange my schedule. I think the hardest part is I think, especially in this business, a lot of people have a hard time recognizing what's a 911 and 411. And they treat every 411 as a 911. And then they get burned out. You know, this is a dates and deadlines business. If I know that the deadline is Friday at noon, I don't need to respond on Friday or Tuesday at 3 o'clock. You know, it's just been my approach. I don't know if it's the right approach or the wrong approach, but I would like to believe that, you know, people feel, hey, I'm really accessible. I know I can get a hold of him. And he's always responsive to my needs and wants and questions, despite the fact that like I would never share that publicly. I just know that you guys don't know me. So I'm fine sharing it with you to say like, I'm vulnerable to say I'm not perfect.
I'm just starting out in this business. So do you
Yeah.
have any advice for like a newbie?
The world is run by those who show up.
Okay.
Okay. What I mean by that is like, do the activities. And I just see this with our new folks. Like, they're not afraid to put themselves out there. The person who like gets their listing strategy perfect, gets their lead generation systems perfect, like all that stuff, they waste all this time getting ready to get ready. Just go make something really, really messy, really, really fast as you can. And you're not afraid about what someone thinks of you or how you're doing it, because you'll perfect it over time. Again, at the end of the day, you're all working with the same contracts. You're all generally negotiating the same principles in the deal, right? There isn't anything that makes you and I more different than anybody else. The only thing is I have the ability to get someone to say yes to me more than you do. That's it.
Mhm.
And so it's working through. Once you get someone to a yes, you can figure out all the rest of the stuff.
Okay.
The other thing I would tell you, and I'm a firm believer in this, and I've seen it a million times, is I believe in learning through osmosis and picking up good habits of those that you surround yourself. Speed of
Mhm. Yeah. Thank you.
All right, I think we lost Charlie there. He was frozen, so at least up here in our market center. So anyway, I think we're at the top of the hour. Charlie, if you can hear us, thank you for being here today. We appreciate it. Mindset does matter. Who we're in business with matters. Thanks for all attending today, and have a good rest of your week. Thank you. Some good